Let's look briefly at the remaining options that are available in the definitions module. The bank processing option ties to an optional add-on module that allows you to automatically process credit card information through your bank and is configured as a separate add-on module. AR aging periods allows you to specify the different aging periods for your system and what the messages are that you want to print on the statements for each aging period. The sales tax table allows you to set up the different sales tax tables that you want to use. You'll be able to specify a sales tax rate to be used for that table and a name which would correspond to what you see on your printed reports so that you can know what each rate is that you've selected. The software will allow you to define up to 54 different sales tax rates and then assign those to your customers. Each customer is charged sales tax based on the rate that corresponds to the sales tax table number that's entered when he's defined. Next, we have the inventory cost method. The software allows you to calculate your inventory costing based on first in, first out, or cost averaging. First in, first out is a standard. Inventory is costed based on the product that we receive first, is used first, and the cost is pulled through that way. Our recommendation is to use first in, first out as your costing solution. Next is the pre-printed forms option. In the pre-printed forms module, you can select from several different layouts of forms as well as specify whether or not you're using forms that are pre-printed. In addition, you can also specify some of your hardware options. First, the invoice type. The software by default will utilize three different invoice types. One is a standard invoice, the second is a back order invoice, and the third is a slip invoice that would print on a 40-column receipt printer. You can specify which of those invoices you want to use. In order to make your invoice printing more efficient, if you use dot matrix printers, we recommend that you use printers that are compatible with the Epson FX100 printer driver, and in that case you can mark this as a yes, and the software will automatically use the native printer fonts so that your dot matrix forms print a little bit more quickly. You can also specify whether or not you want your invoices 1 and 2 types printed directly to the default Windows printer, or if you want to see the printer selection dialog box each time. Selecting yes there can make that option perform a little bit faster. Next, we have some options for that are tied to the slip printer. If you're using a slip printer, then quite often the slip printer will open your cash drawer in the point of sale hardware, and the printer will also require a command to cut off the invoice, and you would put those commands here. We've included the commands for the Epson series printers. That's our recommendation, that you use the Epson series POS printers if you're printing the Type 3 slip invoice. The next options are the check type. We support both laser and pin-fed checks. You can specify which one you're using, and we also allow you to utilize a separate AP and payroll form so that the AP has its own AP voucher on it and the payroll appears more blank, or to use an all-purpose check which just has a blank voucher and then the software prints the whatever information needs to be printed on the voucher. Because check printing is not always consistent in terms of the height that the check hits on the printout, you can adjust the vertical position of the printout by using these options to move it up or down a line until it matches. Next, we have some options for pre-printed forms. Pre-printed forms are available through a third-party company that provides forms that are compatible with business software solutions with Business Plus Accounting. You can contact us at 801-294-3300 for information on acquiring compatible forms. You can specify that you're using a pre-printed invoice, statement, purchase order, or rep order if you're using the rep order sales. And finally, you can specify that your statements as well as your invoices will be printed to an Epson FX100 compatible printer. The next option that we have is to activate GPM for sales. Products can be sold by gross profit margin. The gross profit margin tables allow you to specify what the gross profit margin will be used for each price level. So you can sell your product and do your pricing based on GPM. Finally, we have the Define Miscellaneous option. Define miscellaneous. We'll just go through these quickly. The enable customer profile on order screen allows you to have a window pop up after you key in an account in customer orders that has a summary of that account's information on it. And you can specify yes or no. The add commissions prompt allows you to specify whether or not you want to see a commissions prompt on the customer order screen. And the add notes shipping address prompt for POS invoices. The last step of printing an invoice or creating an invoice on the system, the software will bring up a window asking you if you want to print an invoice or if you want to add notes or change the shipping address. If you want the process to be more streamlined and don't need to ever change any of the options on that screen, you can select yes here, or you can select no here, and that screen will no longer appear. The default value is yes. The software also allows you to process drop shipments. If you want to have the software print out a vendor order in addition to the invoice when you process a drop shipment, you can select Y here. You can change the default sort order of your customer list in browses and in pick lists and select account or customer so that the default order that those come up in is whichever is more appropriate to you. Once you're in a pick list or in a browse window, you can always change the current search order by pressing the F8 key. You can do the same thing with the product table, and you can choose to sort it by default by either the product ID or by the description. The next option would be to force credit card authorization for internet orders, which is applicable if you're using the web software. If you're printing barcodes, the software supports 2 barcode sizes, and you can select a small or a large barcode. More information is available on that if you contact Business Software Solutions. You can create a default set of invoice notes that will print on your invoices. Then each invoice will receive these notes as a default, and when you change notes, you'll have a pick list so that you can select a set of notes that you want to use. This is very useful if you find yourself printing the same notes frequently on your invoices. The software by default will print 1 copy of an invoice. If you want to have the software automatically print multiple copies so that you have a copy for your own file, you can indicate the number of copies of the invoice that you want printed. The software also supports a function in customer orders called Quick Point of Sale. Quick Point of Sale allows you to enter a typical POS cash account, at which point the software will automatically assume you're using that account and log all of your sales against that account. To turn on Quick Point of Sale, you can select Y here, or as you're processing orders, you can press Alt-T, which will turn it on for a specific order. If you enter a Quick Point of Sale account here, the software will always assume when you enter that account that you're using the Quick Point of Sale module, and you want the Quick Point of Sale options turned on. You have the option when you're browsing the general ledger to show or to not show the general accounts or to only show the detail accounts. You can automatically post cost of goods and inventory to your appropriate accounts in the software at the time that orders are created. The software also allows you to archive off data to try to keep the size of the order of the files consistent. You can specify the number of days that you want to keep current before you move them out to archive. If you need to restore data from the archive, you can come into this screen and change the number of days to a number that will incorporate whatever data you want to see, and it will pull that information back in from the archive. You can also archive posting transactions a certain number of months after an accounting period is closed, and you would specify the number of months here. Next, if you have purchased the automatic UPS rate calculation files from Business Software Solutions, then you can have the software automatically calculate shipping based on those files and the total weight in pounds of the order. You can allow credit memos to be applied from the customer payment screen by selecting yes in this option. And finally, you can have the software take an inventory snapshot every day by selecting yes in this option. You later then have the opportunity to come back and print an inventory snapshot report to show you a snapshot of the beginning inventory for any day that the information was saved on. The final option is to define colors. The software there will allow you to set up whatever color schemes you want for your software.